Hello, everyone. Um, well, it's a wonderful week. I know we promised something for you this week, but there's been slight changes here and there. But you guys are gonna get what we promised. I'm not gonna mention what it is. I'm just gonna move on and do what I'm supposed to be doing today. But there's one thing I have to note that unfortunately today the chairman, Lebo, is not able to join us today because there's something urgent that he needs to take care of. And also Sibani is going to join us a bit later. But you stuck with me. I don't know if you don't like Spider-Man or you don't like Star-Lord from Guardians of the Galaxy or you don't like Iron Man. I don't know. Or you don't like Kung Fu Panda. I don't know. So, welcome everyone to Power Thursdays. Today we are focusing on approval flows in Power Automate. Again, it's no longer Power Apps. We're just, taking a break from Power Apps. We're starting to show you how to use logic whenever you're using the Power Platform. So for you to incorporate or to add on logic into your applications, you need to use Power Automate, Microsoft Power Automate. You've seen the last past 2 weeks when we were doing two different flows. One was for sending, tracking our inventory, and another one was actually looking looking at we're looking at a hashtag from Twitter. So we're just pulling tweets from a certain hashtag, and then we analyze that data if you want to. But but today I want to show you something. I don't know if it's gonna be interesting for you guys, but I want to mention something to you guys. If you remember, for South Africans, if you remember what happened with clicks, I don't know whether it was this year or last year when they were doing the advertisement, right? And it was rather a bit, it had some racial issues and stuff. I don't remember quite well, but the tweet text or I don't know whether it was both on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, but mostly I saw it on Twitter. And all of the tweets that they put there, or one of that tweet was very, very, very concerning in terms of race, right? It was just rather diminishing another race while uplifting another race. So rather, so how do we avoid such things, right? There was a case where people were saying, um, for that post to be out there, it has to go through certain processes. It has to go through certain people within the management of clicks, for an example, or of I don't know which other partner they have that was involved in the advertisement, right? So they said, if that's the case, then how is it that they did not see the problem with the tweet itself, right? Because everyone is seeing that. So which means probably everyone in that department or the marketing department from Clicks has some sort of either racial stereotypes or they are, I don't want to say racist, but probably they are racist. So people were implying that, and it's quite understandable why they were doing that. So how do we solve a problem like that? How do we make sure that it goes through the right people or it goes through the right checks or checkpoints to the different people within the organization? Because if you think about it, I work in marketing at Clicks or at Social Gigs South Africa, right? As I work in marketing in Social Gigs South Africa, there is a certain post that I need to put out on Twitter, on Facebook maybe, or on Instagram, right? But now, before I can post that, I have to take this through the different departments or different people within the organization or within the company. And sometimes that is very time consuming because some people would try and send an email with a spreadsheet, or people would try to they would try to, if I'm not mistaken, they would go there physically to actually get that certain post or that certain post text to be reviewed by their higher ups or their manager, right? It's time consuming, and also the manager has a lot of things to do. So, how do we solve that problem? We have Power Automate. Power Automate solves almost every and any problem that you could face, and that is very repetitive, and it can be done by just automating stuff, right? We're going to use Power Automate, and when we're using Power Automate, we are going to be able to look at our data source or our database, where, let's say, for an example, we have a new product, or a person within the organization wants to post something for the entire organization, we want to be able to review that certain tweet or that certain post, its words, right? We want to review all of that. So how do we do that, right? So how do we do that? We need to review it, and then if it's thumbs up and it's okay, then that means that tweet should be posted. But now it shouldn't be like, oh, okay, Yolanda had approved of the text that I sent her, so now she needs to send me back the text so that I can post it. Instead, we want to, when Yolanda approves of the test, or the text or the post, it should just automatically go up to Twitter, right? That's all we want to do. So enough about my face and everything else. Let's just get right into it. So again, I'm about to share my screen. So what we're about to do is to use Power Automate to um, employ our task, or this certain scenario that I just showed you guys, or that I just explained to you. It's it's very it's very nice in a sense, because when you're looking at it, right? You're looking at it, you are trying to bridge a gap where people have to be running around, going back and forth to the manager, to the manager and back to their post, and then they have to put something up on social media. Again, we live in a world where there is a lot of social media and social stuff that are happening. People are posting, and we need things that are inclusive of everyone, without excluding or without sounding racist, stereotypical. We need to be able to be inclusive of everyone. So how do we do that? How do we use technology, right? So I am not sure if my screen is showing, because I'm not seeing anything. I'm about to see. Okay, yeah. I don't know if you guys can see my screen. Probably you can. So I'm just going to carry on with this. Thanks, Yolanda. I'm going to carry on. So we are in Power Automate. We've shown you guys how this environment works. We've shown you what works, your way around it. Again, I can just, go through a little bit of stuff so that, get used to it. This part at the left-hand side of your screen, you'll find that there's create. That's what we're about to use. We're going to use a create function or create button so that we can create our flow in Power Automate. And my flows is the flows that you have created previously. And action items are all the action items based on whether it was approvals or it was business process flows, which is something that we're going to get into. But one of those, which is approvals, is something that we're about to do today, right? How do those work? You will see, right? And then, yeah, you have templates. Obviously, if you want to create your own flow, or you want to create flows that are already catered or that are already built for you, you can use templates like how it is. So let me not waste any time. I did specify to you guys that we're looking at data sources, we're looking at databases. My data source today will be SharePoint, right? In SharePoint, I have a list that's already created. So if I quickly go to my SharePoint, and I go to my SharePoint site that we created in the previous segments of this entire Power Thursday show, when I was using it with the Power Ninjas, it's Task Manager. So if I go into Task Manager, there's a SharePoint list that I have there. Again, there's a disclaimer. You can use any data source that you feel comfortable with. If you're creating flows, if you're creating Power Apps, or if you're creating a Power BI report, something that we're gonna get into in the future, or if you're using Power Virtual Agents, if I'm not mistaken, it's up to you. But it's also based on what solution you're trying to provide out there, right? So with my solution, it uses SharePoint. So it has to be automatic. It has to be automatic so that it can be able to pick up stuff from our database and then send an approval request to our manager, right? So I have the different lists that are here, but the one that I'm using today will be Power Ninja's tweets, right? If I click on that list, the screen will load just shortly. It has the different columns there. There's the title, the tweet content. It's the things that you would need if you would follow along with this, probably now or probably in the near future, if you're able to actually pause this video. So you have your title, the tweet content, the tweet date, the approval status, and the approver comment. So, like in the scenario that I gave you guys, right? We want to know what kind of tweet will be out there. So here it'll be the tweet content, right? And the title. It can be anything that you want to name it, right? You can name it Social Gigs podcast post or pre-Social Gigs podcast post. And then here on the tweet content, it'll be the actual post where you're saying, today we are having Someleze talking about this and this and this, or today we are posting our new line of product. And then the tweet date will be the day, obviously, that you tweeted that. And then the approval status now comes with approving stuff, or if you have a manager, like I said, your manager is approving of that tweet that you want to send out to Twitter or you want to send out to social media. But in our case, it's Twitter. And then the comments. So it'll be, if it's approved, he will tell you or she will tell you what kind of tweet. The comment that he or she will give will be like, maybe it's a good tweet. Maybe there's something that you need to fix if it's not approved, right? So those are the different columns that I have here. I think there are about 5 of them, right? So it's awesome, Peter Tingley, awesome. So if we go back to Power Automate, right? We want to create a flow. So what do we do when we create a flow? We click on create. Awesome. So again, what are we creating? How is our thing looking like, right? How is our flow looking like? We want to know, right, that to shy away from, oh, okay, Someleze added this into our database. And then now I have to go back to the database and then have to look into the database and have to try and see if I can approve of that and then post it on Twitter. Instead, I want that in our database or data source. Whenever Someleze or Yolanda or Narcisse or Lebo adds something onto our data source, right? Whenever they add something, one of them or all of them add a Twitter onto our data source, we need our flow to quickly run because we need that approval request to be made, right? So what does that mean? It means that we're about to use our automated cloud flow, which means it'll run each and every time something is triggering it or there's an event that is triggering our flow. Instant cloud flows are things that, or are flows that you are using that are triggered manually. So whenever, for an example, by click of a button or by you adding some information into a certain form, if you want to, then schedule flows, they're scheduled, they run on a certain time interval that you specify. So I don't want to get into explaining this since we've covered explaining this part, but you will see it whenever we are creating those flows almost the following week or the following week after that, right? So let's use our automated cloud flow. Again, our scenario is to look at whenever Someleze, Lebo, or Spani, or Yolanda adds something into our data source or adds the tweet that they want to send out to Twitter onto our data source, our flow needs to run. And when it runs, it needs to be automated. It should not be manual. It shouldn't be something that will be a tedious task, whereas I have to always look at my data source on what's happening. Hopefully you guys understand. So again, we are using SharePoint like I mentioned earlier. We're going to use a very similar trigger, our flow trigger. because we need a trigger for our flow, which is automated. It's similar when an item is created or modified, right? Whenever Someleze adds something or updates the tweet that he wants to send out to Twitter, run our flow. That's what it means. So I'm going to click on when an item is created or modified. And then I will give it a flow name. I will say approval flow. Hopefully I do not have a flow that is called approval flow because it will give us problems. We don't want problems. Then I press on create. If there's no approval flow that has already been created before, then thumbs up. So yay, if you're looking at it, everything is fine, right? So our trigger is Sharepoint. It says when an item is created or modified. Where exactly in Sharepoint? So we need to specify our site, our Sharepoint site. We need to specify our Sharepoint list. So let's do that. Our Sharepoint site, right, which is our site address, you can find it on the options on the drop-down list because Flow automatically picks up if you're using that specific account or that specific environment. It'll pick up the Sharepoint sites that belong to that specific account. In my case, the account that you guys see right now. So our SharePoint site, the one that the Power Ninjas usually use almost every Thursday, is Task Manager. So I'm going to click on Task Manager, right? And then now I need to specify my SharePoint list name, right? Again, I will have to look at the list names. Again, how does this work? It means that when an item is created or modified, but you need to specify the actual location, the exact location where it is created or modified in, right? So if I quickly look through, it gives me the different SharePoint lists that are within the SharePoint site task manager. So you can see all of these. See Georgie Simp as a classic, the first ever SharePoint list we ever used in the beginning of Power Thursdays. You see organizations, you see Power Ninjas tweets. Aha, that's the one that we need. So I'm going to click on Power Ninjas tweets, right? Okay, our trigger is set and it's fine. So now we need to add a new step so that whenever this flow is triggered and whenever this item is created or modified in SharePoint, we need something to happen. So what do we need to happen? Again, I gave you the scenario with, I'm going to click on, I just clicked on add a new step. So I gave you the scenario where I said, you remember clicks when they were like, oh, okay, we're about to post this on all our social media platforms, maybe on our Twitter account. And then it was just sent through and it had a lot of backlash from the public, like from all of the South Africans, because obviously it was a bad tweet. It was very bad. So it was not checked through by everyone involved within that department or the posting department or the social media department, right? Or PR, if I'm not mistaken. So I want an action to happen so that we can avoid the clicks problem, right? Our pharmaceutical problem, which is clicks. We have to avoid that. So what do I want to happen? I want to start an approval, right? I need that this tweet that has been added into our data source or this SharePoint item that's been added to our data source because it's added so that it can go to Twitter. Before it can go to Twitter, it needs to be looked through, reviewed, so that we can post it if it's appropriate or not post it if it's not appropriate, right? So what happens now? We say we need to choose an operation or an action, which is we look for approvals, right? There's approval. So you click on approval. It'll show you the actions that are underneath approval. You can create an approval, you can start and wait for an approval, or you can wait for an approval. For us, we are starting and waiting for an approval from our manager because if we say, I want to post this tweet, but it needs to go through every single person involved within our company. So it needs to get approved. So I need to start by sending through the tweet and then wait for the approval from my higher ups, right? So we have to start and wait for an approval, which is awesome. So I click on start and wait for an approval. It'll ask you the approval type. So you have, I think it's 4 types. The 2 types are approve or reject, which is everyone must approve. And then the second one would be first to respond. And then you have custom responses in which probably it needs to wait for every single person's approval or not wait for every single person's response. How does that work? It works that if if this has been sent to Someleze, it's sent to Lebo, and then it's sent to if I'm not mistaken, if it's sent to Sibani and then it's sent to Yolanda, we need to wait for all of them to respond to that approval request, or else our flow will get stuck at this position. So for us, we need approve or reject first to respond in this case. But in Click's case, they're supposed to use everyone must approve, which means everyone should approve that tweet being posted onto Twitter, so that every single person involved in the posting or PR department or the social media department should look and review at that tweet before it gets sent out, even if there was one of them who was racist, if I can say, who was racist or bad, and they approved it, and yet now we need to look at what everyone else says, and we need input from everyone else. So again, it works with how whenever you're working in a group or in a team where, yes, it's good to give your input, but sometimes having more minds or more heads for a certain problem brings a better solution. So that's the case here. But for us, it'll be first to respond because, it's for demo purposes. And I do not want to be waiting for Sibani to approve something, Lebo to approve something, whereas they're probably busy where they are, right? So I'm going to click on first to respond. It'll be awesome. So it'll ask me the different things that I want for my approval, the title of the approval, who it's assigned to, and the details. And then never mind the other stuff, but probably the item link and the link description. So the description of the approval, right? So the title would be like if I gave the tweet a title and said post for or pre-post for a new podcast session. That would be the title of my approval. And then assigned to, if I'm going to assign it to myself because, the power ninjas are unavailable for today. And then the details. So if you're looking at this assigned to part, it goes to what I was saying, right? In about whenever you're working in a company, you have different layers of management, and there's different people within that department or the PR department where things need to be approved by a certain person within that department who is an overall looker of things, right? So you use assign to, and then you can send the email to that person and also send an email to a different person, right? So let me stop speaking too much and then add these things. Remember, I told you and we told you about something called the dynamic content whenever you're using Power Automate and you are creating flows. It makes things easier for you so that you can be able to pull stuff from either your trigger or your button if you used an instant flow, right? So our dynamic content here, right, would show us all the things, if I'm not mistaken, all the things that are in, if you can see my screen, all the things that are in Sharepoint, our Sharepoint list, not just Sharepoint generally, but our specific Sharepoint list. You find created by claims, created by display name. If I can scroll properly so that you can see the columns that I added, because the other ones are predefined by Sharepoint. There's title, there's tweet content, and there's also tweet date, there's approval comments, which are things that we saw here if I go back to SharePoint, right? So what am I looking for? I want title. I can't be typing down the title. It defeats the purpose of automation. Can't be typing down everything for almost every single flow that I create. So that's the purpose and the use of dynamic content. It allows you to pull information or data or columns from a different data source or from a certain trigger or action, right? So let's put, who is this approval assigned to? Who needs to approve this approval? Me. Yay. You know, Peter Parker, he's going to approve it, which is me. So I'm going to put my name or my email here. Hopefully it picks me up. Someleze, Diko. And then I click on that. It puts me in. And then what it will do, it will send me an email so that I can be able to approve this approval. And for details, if I'm not mistaken, now here is the part for details. You cannot be sending an approval request or you cannot be sending an email. Hopefully you guys are not minding my mouse going all crazy on the screen. I need to control it almost every time, you know? So you cannot send an approval request that is vague, right? You're working in a company or you're working in an organization and you're sending approval requests that are vague. It'll cause problems whenever a person is trying to approve something in that organization. So that's not what we want. So you should be able to send something that is detailed, right? What is the approval for, right? We need to know. So in our case, this part, the approval will say that you want to approve the tweet content, right? This is what we want getting approved, right? If I'm not mistaken, let me remove that. So it'll be the tweet content using the dynamic content again, right? Which is from who? Who is this tweet from? Who is the person requiring to tweet this tweet or to post this tweet, if I may say, right? Who is it? Who is it? Yolanda? Is it Lebo? Is it Spani? So it helps you keep track of, if I may say, hopefully I'm not going to get in trouble, but it helps you to keep track of bad apples in your organization, or it helps you keep track of who is requesting what for a certain specific item or for a certain specific action in the organization. So we'll say tweet content, which is the tweet itself. Who is it from? Now I look here. Instead of using the ones that I added, the columns that I added, we will look for created by display name. What that does, if you create an item in SharePoint, in the SharePoint list, it'll specify who was responsible for creating that item within that SharePoint list, even if I'm not the one who's logged in. And then let's say Sibani is trying to use a SharePoint list. If he puts a tweet content or a tweet that he wants posted on Twitter, it'll show that it's his tweet that needs to be approved or that needs to be posted on Twitter. So we're going to use created by display name. It'll pull in my display name. In my case, it'll be Someleze Diko if I show you the email that is sent to me. Hopefully it sends the email. And then an item link. So this is like an extra feature. The item link is where you're trying to point your manager to where exactly is this tweet coming from so that they can see the full details of that tweet or of that item. So I'm going to search, instead of scrolling down, I'm just going to search for the dynamic content link to item. So if I scroll down, it'll give me link to item. So add that. And then the description, you can add your own description if you want to. Right now, I'm going to add Power Ninjas because I missed the guys, obviously. Power Ninjas tweet list. So it'll give what you are seeing here. It'll give us or give the approver or the manager the full details of what we are requesting from them, right? So this is the part where I'm saying clicks could have used or should have used this part or this flow to actually have a proper scanning or review of their post on the different social media platforms that they had last year, in which they would have avoided a, a very big backlash from the public and also losing its customers, right? It's crazy and very nice what technology can do for you and what automation can do for you, right? So that is set. Now, we have our trigger, which is when an item is created or modified, right? So it's set. That's fine. Whenever something is added on SharePoint, something needs to happen. What is that something that needs to happen? Start and wait for an approval, which means it will send an approval request to our manager. In this case, it's me. So now what's the next step, right? I spoke about posting on Twitter. So we need to post. If it's approved, we need to post it on Twitter. That's what we need to do. So if it's approved, we need to post it on Twitter. If I click on new step to add another step, our next step now would be an action, not an action, but it will be a condition, right? Why am I using a condition? We have to look at, okay, if this approval request is approved, do this, which is post on Twitter. But if it's not approved, update our SharePoint list and put the approval or the approval status, set it to whichever status that you're going to say, probably yes or no. It will say, is it approved? Yes. Is it approved? No. So we need a condition instead of just saying, oh, okay, just send a post on Twitter, even if it was approved, not knowing if it was approved or not approved. I think that is what the problem was with the clicks scandal, right? No one reviewed it. No, even if someone reviewed it, either way, it was posted on Twitter. So that's what we're trying to avoid. We need a condition. Say that if it's approved, put it on Twitter. If it's not approved, don't put it on Twitter, but update the status and also put the comments and tell the person who was requesting to actually send the tweet to Twitter why it's not approved. Okay? Hopefully you guys understand. So I'm going to say condition, or it's under control, and then it's condition, right? Condition. Again, some people who are using different programming languages and who are coding, and some people who are not coding but they were using Power Apps as I was using it the past few weeks with the Power Ninjas. We've seen stuff where we were talking about if this, put it in brackets, do this and this. Power Automate has a similar function, but it doesn't require you to be writing an if statement, an if word saying if this, and then you put your condition into a bracket. It makes it much more simpler to automate stuff using Power Automate, right? So what are we looking at, right? We're looking at if the response from our if the response from our manager is approved, right? Do something. So keyword response. We're not gonna type something and say if, oh yes, the tweet, if it's approved, then post on Twitter. No, we have to use the items or the dynamic content from our previous step because that's how Power Automate works, right? So we look here, already it's showing us the different options that come from this action, which is start and wait for an approval, right? There are the different options, which is response summary, the completion date, and the outcome, all of those options that you see here that are here. But for us, we're not looking for most of these things, but we are actually looking for, let me double check. We're looking for responses, right? We're looking for the responses. Either you use responses in which it will show you all of the responses from the approver, Or you can use, if I'm not mistaken, if you're trying to use responses approver name or you say responses approver email, that doesn't really make sense because you're only using the actual email. Instead, here, if you say, okay, let me use the responses approver response, which means the response from the approver. My mouse. The response from the approver. So that means that, oh, okay, you're just trying to take the response from the approver. But that is not really feasible. Let's say, for an example, now you have 3 items, not even 100. You have 3 tweets that people added into SharePoint, and they need an approval, right? What it's going to do if you use response approver response, it will only respond to a specific item within your SharePoint list. I think it will be the first one, if I'm not mistaken. But if you're using responses, the one that you saw here at the end, responses, which is all of the responses, it'll respond to all of the items within the SharePoint or all of the items within the approval request, right? So pretty simple and pretty basic. So if I click on responses and I say it equates to approve, I think it's approve or approved. Let's use approve for now. And then if it doesn't work properly, we'll come back and look at this, right? So we'll use if the responses are equal to approve, then if yes, it means if it's actually true that they're equal to approve, then we have to add an action. So what do we need to do whenever we add in that action? What did I say we need to happen? Afterwards, after the manager has responded to our approval request, if it's yes, we need to post on Twitter. Same thing with the clicks problem, right? So now we're trying to avoid that and showing them how to solve that problem. So here in my case, I will search for Twitter because it's an action, Twitter, right? And I click on Twitter. As I'm clicking on Twitter, there are different options that come from the connector Twitter. Remember, we spoke about connectors. We have different connectors, over 275 connectors using Power Automate, in Power Automate and Power Apps and everything. So Twitter is one of those connectors. So if you use the connector Twitter, it'll give you the different options that you would have when you're using that connector. So we have post a tweet, the one that we want, retweet, in which is quite useful if you want to. You can get the followers of a certain person, get who you're following, get the home timeline, get my followers, get my following, all of that, right? But for us, for our scenario to be feasible and to be used properly, we're going to use post a tweet onto Twitter, right? So if I click on that, hopefully it clicked, right? Post a tweet, and then I do this, expand it properly, and then I scroll down. It says tweet text. It means which tweet or which tweet text is about to be tweeted. Again, I do not need to be going onto the data source, copying the tweet that was sent through by Someleze, by Lebo, by Sibani, and copy and pasting it here each and every time. Instead, I can use the dynamic content that we got from all our previous actions that we've had and our trigger. So let's use them, right? If I scroll down, it's not within the start and wait for an approval action, but it's within our SharePoint. That's where we are getting it from, right? So it will be tweet content, right? It will be tweet content. That is our tweet text that we're going to put, because that's what I said when I created the SharePoint list when I showed you guys, right? And you have the option to actually put the media if you want to put the picture that, like, in a similar way that Clicks did. you can do so. It's all possible if you want to, but in our case, we're not going to do that. Okay. So right after the tweet is posted onto Twitter, what do I want to happen? Because we're still inside if yes, if our approval request was approved. What do I want to happen after the tweet has been posted? I want to update my SharePoint list, right? I want to update my SharePoint list, that specific item, and update that certain column. Instead of doing this in front of the camera, let me just show you. I want to update this column, which is approval status, and also this column, which is approval comments. That's what I want to do. So I have to update my SharePoint list. So how do we do that? We say SharePoint, the connector SharePoint, click on SharePoint, right? Instead of scrolling through, because the different actions options for actions that you can use within with the SharePoint connector, I'm about to search for the update item action within the SharePoint connector, right? I don't want to update a file, but I'm updating an item. So we click on update item because I want to update a specific item in my SharePoint list. Again, it's asking me where exactly is this item, right? So my exact location of this item, we're going to go through this almost a similar process of looking for the site address, which is Task Manager. It's in Task Manager, that's the SharePoint site. And then it's in the Power Ninja's tweets list. That's the list name, right? And then, we are seeing ID there. What exactly is ID doing there? I don't know, but the picture tingle is actually telling me that it's actually an ID that we are able to pull it from here. Remember, when an item is created, so you've already created an item or you've modified an item in SharePoint, so this is triggered. So which means it'll take that specific item and then it'll carry that item's ID so that we can identify which item we want to update. So that's what it means. Wow. Okay, I feel like the God of Thunder now. So the ID for this item will use the dynamic content that comes from SharePoint, the SharePoint connector, and our SharePoint trigger action, which is this one that you see on the screen, this one. And then I'm just going to click on ID, right? And then the title, it'll be almost the similar thing that I'm doing. It's the same for the different columns that are there. So the one that I want to update is the ID and its title. You have to give it which title, which ID it is. So I have to look through my dynamic content again, right? If I scroll up again, and then there's title over there. Click on title, right? And then you don't have to worry about the tweet content, the tweet date. You don't worry about those things. Why? Because when you were adding them, or when Someleze or Lebo was creating an item in SharePoint, they were already there. But now, in our case right now, we're not creating something, but we're updating something. We are updating the approval status, which is here, approval status. Right now, you have the option selected as yes, or you can select as no, but it wouldn't be, if you say no, it wouldn't contrast properly with what we're doing here, right? Which is if yes. So we will leave that as it is, which is approval status is yes. And then the approval comments, you specifically as the manager, or Someleze as the manager, can actually say which comments go into the tweet if it's approved. So I'm going to say good tweet, right? I'm just going to say good tweet. I don't want to be typing almost everything, right? And so that's fine. That's awesome. We are set. So what happens if it's not approved? Someleze, you're not saying anything. Probably I've been talking for a very long time. I have. I know, but we're almost done, right? So if it's not approved, we add an action. Now we are not posting it to Twitter because it's not approved. Probably it's racist. Probably it has a stereotypical tone within it, so it's not approved. So what do we do? Instead of posting it on Twitter, we have to notify that person who was sending the approval request and tell them why it wasn't approved. So again, what do? We have to use Sharepoint and update our Sharepoint list so that we can update the approval status, right? So if I say Sharepoint and I click on Sharepoint, hopefully this is visible. And then I say update, search for update, and I say update item. Again, almost a similar step is the one that we just did previously. And then where do I want to update that item? I want to update that item in the SharePoint site, which is Task Manager. And then I want to update the that item in the list called Power Ninja's Tweets, right? And then where's the ID? Obviously, our dynamic content comes into play. There's the ID, the same ID that we use in our previous step, the same ID that comes from our trigger, right? What's the title? The title also is the same as the one that we used in our previous step, right? The same that comes from our trigger. So I click on title, and then I do not update these two columns, which is tweet date. Let me scroll again, go to this side, which is tweet date, tweet content, because I don't want to update the tweet content, but instead I want to update the approval status, right? But this time shouldn't be set to yes, it should be set to no, so that in our data source or in our SharePoint list, we can know that this is the approval status, which is no or yes. That's it. And then the comments are, say, bad tweet, Odin, Peter Parker does not like it. Right? That's it. That's basically it. That's your entire flow. So the flow is when an item is created or modified in SharePoint, what do? Start and wait for an approval from this person, which is Someleze Digo. In which, in my case, it will probably cause a lot of problems, but you will see. And then, what are the details of that approval? What exactly should Someleze approve of? He needs to review the tweet content or the tweet text that either Lebo or Yolanda is requesting him to approve of. And then who is it from? Yolanda, Sibani, or Lebo. And then there's a link to that item and also the description. And then now, once it's approved or not approved, if it's approved, right, we have our condition. The response from there is it's approved. Yay. What do? We should do this. Post a tweet onto Twitter. What is the tweet? It's the tweet content that we are taking from our SharePoint list that either Lebo, Sibani, or Yolanda added onto our SharePoint list. And then afterwards, what do we want to do? We want to update our SharePoint list item that it's approved. The approval status is yes. And why is it yes? It's because it's a good tweet, right? And then if it's not approved, oh my God, oh no, it's not approved, we have to update the SharePoint list item to the approval status in that SharePoint list item to no, and then we say it's a bad tweet, that is how Clicks could have avoided their problem. Maybe they don't know about the Power Platform, they don't know about Power Automate, but if they're watching out there, Someleze is here. But let me not waste time, right? Let me not waste time. Now, what we need to do is to click on save. save our flow, right? While it's saving, while it's saving, it's giving me 2 warnings. It's saying that actions in this flow may result in an infinite trigger loop. Please ensure you add appropriate conditional checks to prevent this from this flow from triggering itself. Probably that's what's going to happen. The reason why is because I am actually using my own account instead of sending it to a different person. But you have to watch out for those. If you're working in an organization, you don't send the approval request to yourself, but you're sending it to your manager, your higher up, right? So it's saved. Let me try to test it, right? Hopefully it doesn't send me multiple emails. So before we do that, let me open my Outlook so that probably it'll send me an email on Outlook and then tell me that I need to approve of this. Okay, there's my Outlook. It's there. Let's go to our flow. Let's test it. Click on right? If I click on test and I say I will do it manually, obviously, because I haven't tested it before. Click on test, right? Now, for it to work, for me to see that it works, I need to go back to my Sharepoint list, you know? Yeah, it's not ideal, but I need to go back to my Sharepoint list and add something, right? So if I do this and I say click on add new item, Sharepoint list item, and the title is showcase approval, then my tweet content, right? My tweet text will be power. If I do this, add power ms power automate, then to make it look like an actual tweet, I say hashtag power platform. Our platform, the tweet date, it's today. Change the time if I want to. I don't want to. 12 p.m., 2 p.m., or 3 p.m. And then the approval status, I shouldn't be adding that myself, so I'm not going to factor in that. And then the approval comments, it's things that I shouldn't be doing, right? Because I'm just using SharePoint, so it'll ask me to add this. But if you're using a different form outside, it will not show you this approval status on approval comments. So I click on save so that I can see if it's working. And then now Flow or Power Automate is telling me that my flow is running. So we wait and see what's going on, right? When an item is created or modified, has run successfully, and then everything is fine. But now, one problem is we are starting and waiting for an approval now, right? So if I'm not mistaken, I need to find this in my email. Oh, there it is in my email. So I get into my email. It's showcase for the approval flow, this one. So if I look at it and I'm reviewing it and say, oh, okay. Someleze said MS Power Automate rocks, hashtag Power Platform, and it's coming from Someleze Diko. Oh, okay. I can approve this because it has no explicit content. It has no explicit words. It has no racial slurs or anything like that. Then I can just click on approve. And then comments, yes, if I want to. But if I don't want to, I can just use the default ones. Yes, it rocks. Yes, it rocks, and then I click on submit. And it says working on it, working on it. Yeah, hopefully I'm pressed on time. Okay, awesome. If I go back to our Power Automate, it says the start and wait for an approval has ran successfully, and our condition ran successfully. Now, The problem is this part not, or this part of our flow is not running, but instead what's running is if it's not approved. So why? What's going on? What is wrong? What did we do wrong? It says that this is how you look and actually people who actually debug stuff in, who are writing code. But I will close my Outlook for now because it will be sending me different flows. Click on that. This is how you look at it and see why it actually didn't work. So let's double check. Probably the problem is in our condition. Then I click on edit, right? I click on edit. It says is equal to approve. What is the actual word that they use? Do they use approved? Let's try again, right? Let's test. Say test this, and then say automatically, and say with the recently used trigger, and I say running. If I say save and test, because I don't want to be adding stuff over and over again onto Sharepoint, right? We ignore that. The flow is running. When an item is created or modified, now I need to open Outlook. Oh my God, why did I close it? Open Outlook, right? And then it's sending me all of these emails because, yeah, obviously it gave us that warning saying that, this is happening, man. You shouldn't be doing that, right? So there you have it, right? There's approve or reject. But now my problem is I clicked on approve, add comments. Yes, it rocks. So what are we doing wrong? Let's click on submit again. Probably it works, probably it doesn't. You never know. It says approved. Probably that was the problem. I'm sorry for taking so much time, right? So probably that is what we're supposed to be equating it to, which is to approved, not approved. Let's go back to our Power Automate and check our flow. If we click our condition, still, it doesn't look like it worked. Why? That's another problem. So I don't know if you guys can give me like probably 5 more minutes so that we can, work this out. But hopefully it's going to work. If I'm looking at it properly here, and I go back to my SharePoint list, it says the approval status is set to no, and it says bad tweet, Peter Parker does not like it, which means that if clicks used something that is similar to this, they probably would have seen the problem with the tweet or with the post that they were sending out at the time. But now I want to show you guys when it posts to Twitter. Hopefully I can. Pressed on time. No, why are you doing this? So it says approved. If it's equal to approved, or if it's equal to, I don't know. If it's equal to approve, save again. So now you guys are looking at me live debugging the problems that we have. So if I say test and I say manually this time and I say test, I go back to my SharePoint list, I add a new item. Work please. Content. Again, add ms power. And then I say hashtag power platform. Yay! And I copy this just in case I need to use it again. I say today at this time, fine. That's fine. I don't mind. Cool. Approval status. I set it to no if I want to. I don't add comments. I said save. We go back. We check not on our email, but we check on our flow to see if it's running or not. So right now it says our flow is running, but if this doesn't work, then I will just leave it be because time and I don't want to be keeping. And then I go back again. I click on work please and I click on approve. It's working. False hope. It's working. And I click on submit and it says working on it. That through. And then new tweet for work please requested by Someleze. Still, it didn't work. So, okay, no, I'm just going to leave it be. Then probably I will show you guys next week because time, hey, it's not cutting. But the important part that I was showing you guys was if Clicks was using Flow like this one quickly, when someone is adding a certain tweet and they're saying they want to post it into the social media accounts of the company, it needs to go through a process of different people within that company or organization that is responsible for posting these things, right? And this is what needs to happen. This is what a person needs to click on whether they need to approve it. If you're looking at my email right now, to approve it or reject it based on what they saw, which is the, if I'm not mistaken, if you see this part of the screen, which is that was the tweet content I put into SharePoint. Now you're seeing it in my email. So if they saw that, if Click saw that as well, then they used Power Automate, they were going to be able to reject it and then was never going to be posted on any social media account. And then they were not going to lose their customers. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So yeah, that's it from me. Thanks guys. Hopefully I didn't take much of your time. I'll show you this properly when it's working, like the part where it posts the tweet onto Twitter. I will just leave it be now because I don't want to take much more time, and probably Yolanda is gonna kill me. So if I click this, hello, I'm back. So yeah, that was it. Thanks guys for watching it. Hopefully you guys learned a lot with approval request flows or approval flows using Power Automate. I actually enjoyed sweating in front of you guys trying to figure out what was going wrong, But anyways, it's fine. It's part of the process. I will show you guys I will show you the part where it posts the tweet to Twitter when I think when we're doing our session next week. And yeah, thanks guys for tuning in to today's session from Peter Parker and the Avengers. Oh no. From Someleze and the Power Ninjas. Thank you guys. That is it for us for today. Hopefully you guys learned a lot. And tomorrow I'm not sure what we're doing, but be sure to join our show and Donate Fridays. I think we're tackling MVC. We're building an app with MVC, the basics of MVC. If you don't know MVC, tomorrow will be a great session for you to actually learn how to create an application. Again, I told you that it will send me more emails, so that's what's getting into. Those are the notifications. But anyways, aside from that, be sure to tune in tomorrow to watch our session. It'll be awesome. We have Tori who's showing us how to actually build a web app using MVC and .NET. Yeah, so that will be awesome. I can't wait to actually watch it. And also be sure to like. I'm not sure if you can comment, share, and subscribe. If you have subscribed already, please make sure that your family and friends are subscribed to the channel and their friends and family are subscribed to the channel and so on and so on, so that they can be able to learn all this different new cool stuff that come with technology that would actually upskill them and help them either keep their job or getting a new job, right? Or make their lives much more better. From me, I think that would be it. If that's fine with my with my technician. So, anyways, like I said, I can quickly just go through this and tell you a small story about clicks. You saw how we can use Power Automate. You saw how we can actually avoid a problem like what clicks had last year, right? So the question is, why are we not using such technology if we have such technologies at our disposals, right? So if you're looking at what I showed you today, you can apply it almost in any organization, or you can apply it if you have a startup and you probably have a Microsoft 365 subscription or license to use the Power Platform, and your your organization is on a constant basis of posting stuff on social media, you can use those kind of things. Like you can modify it in any way that you want to use it, and then you can post things on Twitter instead of going on Twitter almost every time or almost every day and just typing stuff, cover, all of that stuff. This is the great stuff, and this is actually the next generation of tech, and it's catering people who do not know how to use code to create solutions that are very nice. But when it comes to our data sources and stuff, besides the SharePoint and everything that I've been using, yes, we have different alternatives. You have Excel, you have Yammer, you have Microsoft Forms or Google Forms. So, for an example, to what I was showing you today, right? I could have used a Microsoft form. It works in a similar manner with Google Forms. So whenever something is added onto a Microsoft form, run this approval request, and then if our manager is actually looking at it, then they can approve. They can approve of it if it's fine. If it's not fine, then they can't. You can use different alternatives, but it depends on the kind of solution that you want to create, right? I'm not sure if Excel has an automated flow, but also you can use Microsoft Excel as a data source. You can use SQL as your data source as well. For people who are using code, they are coding almost every day. But the catch most of the times is that your database, your SQL database needs to be deployed onto Azure. So it has to be Azure SQL, not your local DB, if I'm not mistaken. There are different alternatives. Like I said, there's like plus 275 data sources that are out there or connectors that are out there. So imagine, right? There's different loads of options that you have to actually use and create solutions that are like this. I don't know what else you would require from tech, and you say you don't know how to use tech. I just gave you the solution. You can probably watch this or rewatch it almost every day, and then afterwards you will see that you've gained skills that probably almost half of the country does not have, right? Because there's only a few people that are using stuff like this for their solutions. Probably they are using it, but they're very secretive about it, right? You never know. You're an accountant and you say, oh no, but there are other accountants there or CAs out there that are much more better than me, or we have the same skill set. So now it depends on, oh, okay, do I have a connection in the government or in that certain organization that I'm applying for a job in? So it depends. So sometimes people say they have an advantage over you because of connections. But But, right? So what's going on now, what you can do instead of using the connections part, you know how you can beat those people is by actually upskilling yourself, having skills that they don't have. That will literally nullify whether they have connections in that organization or not, because you have indispensable skills that they do not have, skills that that company requires to move on to the next step or to keep up with the next generation of technology and how to use things. There's no company that's out there that wants to actually to be ruining or spending much money on resources or wasting its resources if there's an alternative way to do things much more better and much more efficient. So with that, me saying that, I would like to close it off here, but bear in mind that you can have an advantage over everyone, but your advantage would be the fair one because you have much more skills and you've gained more skills. You can't say, no, because I don't know how to code, I can't use this. Oh, no, because I'm not into IT or I don't have a technical background, I can't use this. You can. And even if you're saying that you don't have a technical background, you don't know how to code or program, Inspire SA is here for you. We have sessions on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays that show you how to code and how to create solutions without coding. So you have your two different options. So if you want to be a jack of all trades or multi-talented, watch Inspire SA. Subscribe to the channel. Peace out.